Well, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are calling for President Trump to be removed from office. They're calling on Vice President Pence and others within the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, with the president set to leave office in just 12 days. Our Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill with more on this, Nancy.
Good morning, Anne Marie. Well, Democrats are now pressuring the president's dwindling cabinet to swiftly invoke the 25th Amendment and deem him unfit to serve out the remainder of his term, 12 days, and to put Vice President Pence in his position instead. But so far, they've gotten no buy-in from the cabinet. They can't get their calls to Vice President Pence returned, and so they're now working on a plan B.
This is urgent. This is emergency of the highest magnitude.
Calling President Trump dangerous, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi declared he should be removed following this week's insurrection at the Capitol. Democrats plan to talk today about a backup plan.
If the 25th Amendment isn't invoked, the next best thing is impeachment ASAP.
And it wasn't just Democrats. Illinois Republican Adam Kinzinger.
It's time to invoke the 25th Amendment and to end this nightmare. All indications are that the president has become unmoored, not just from his duty, nor even his oath, but from reality itself.
Other Republicans, like Senator Marco Rubio, called out their own GOP colleagues, saying they misled supporters by suggesting that the election results could be overturned.
Criminals are responsible for their own conduct.
Senator Ted Cruz rejected that accusation, though he did find fault with the president.
I think his angry rhetoric was reckless, and I think it was harmful.
But not harmful enough, allies say, to warrant removal.
I don't support an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment now.
South Carolina's Lindsey Graham has spent more time with Mr. Trump than nearly any other lawmaker.
Do you believe, after spending so much time with him, that he is mentally unwell, as some of his aides have said?
No, I think he's very frustrated. He thinks the election was stolen. I think he's got some very bad advisors.
In Wilmington, Delaware, President-elect Joe Biden argued the advisors are not the main problem.
He unleashed an all-out assault on our institutions of our democracy from the outset. And yesterday was but the culmination of that unrelenting attack.
Speaker Pelosi will be holding a conference call with House Democrats today to gauge their interest in impeachment. They could skip the committee process and go straight to a vote on the House floor, but then the Senate would also have to hold a trial. And right now, Anne Marie, both the House and the Senate are in recess. They are gone, and they're not scheduled to be back until January 20th, which is Inauguration Day.
Okay, then, how likely is impeachment then? I would think that, I suppose you could sort of call them back, I don't know, but doesn't it take a while to sort of pull together the articles of impeachment?
Well, it depends on how clear-cut the case is. I mean, when you think back to the last impeachment, obviously it dragged on for months. They had to interview people. There was a lot of gray area about exactly what the president had done, what he meant by certain things. This is potentially a much more clear-cut situation. Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska, Republican, was on CBS This Morning a short time ago. He said he is spending the day investigating what happened with the National Guard, why D.C. police were requesting of the Pentagon that the National Guard be deployed, and that help didn't come for hours. There is some reporting that the president himself rejected that request. Now, if the president knew that the capital of the United States was under assault and he rejected the very help that could have stemmed that attack, I think it's very possible that Democrats and Republicans alike could view that as a very clear-cut case of an impeachable offense. Remember, the articles of impeachment call for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. I'm no legal expert, but I have a feeling that there are some lawmakers who are going to conclude that that could constitute treason if you refuse to prevent an ongoing attack on one of the central pillars of your democracy. So this is a fast-moving situation, Anne-Marie. Obviously, there are major logistical challenges to impeachment in the next 12 days, but anything is possible. Certainly, House Speaker Pelosi has the power, if she wants to call the House back to Washington immediately for a vote.
You know, in the meantime, Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they released a statement last night talking about their attempts to get in contact with the vice president, Mike Pence. You said that he won't return their phone calls. They said that they were on hold for 25 minutes. Right. I can't even imagine that. They want to talk about the 25th Amendment. What do we know about the president's cabinet, the vice president, their feelings about the 25th Amendment?
So it sounds from what we are hearing from Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer that the vice president simply doesn't want to engage on this issue one way or the other. He doesn't want to go on the record saying he supports it. He doesn't want to go on the record saying that he opposes it. And so he's just not taking their calls. And that's why they came out publicly yesterday to push for the 25th Amendment being invoked, because they said they couldn't get that message directly to the vice president himself. Obviously, this is an incredibly delicate situation for the vice president. And you've now got this interesting situation where you've got members of the president's cabinet, because you need a majority of the cabinet to support this in order for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. They're now resigning. They're leaving. Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education, has resigned. Elaine Chao, the Secretary of Transportation, has resigned. Is it because they don't want to be involved in a decision like this? That certainly could have factored into their calculus to leave 12 days before the end of the president's term. So there has been no response from the cabinet as a unit to this proposal by Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer and many other Democrats. I have a feeling there won't be, and that's why you see these Democrats moving so quickly to at least explore the option of impeachment over the next week and a half, which would be, truly a monumental step in the history of the United States. We've never seen anything like that.
Just really quickly, a lot of secretaries are resigning. When it comes to cabinet members, does it have to be top cabinet members who start to pursue the 25th Amendment, or could it be sort of, deputies who are most likely going to be in charge for the next couple of weeks in some of these areas?
That's a great question. What the 25th Amendment actually says is that principal officers of the president's administration are the ones who would make the decision. There's a question about what the term principal officers means. We've reached out to both Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer's office to ask them what they believe it means, and we haven't heard back yet. So clearly there's a lot of confusion surrounding all of this, the mechanics of it, how it would work, how quickly it would work, and what it would achieve when we are so close at this point to the end of the Trump presidency.
Before I let you go, I got to ask you about the Senate. Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff have to be sworn in. We could call Chuck Schumer the Senate Minority Leader. He is right now, but he won't be as soon as we have these two other members sworn in. How long could that take? When could that happen?
Well, they can't be sworn in until the state of Georgia certifies their victories. And that certainly could speed up now that Kelly Loeffler, for instance, has conceded her race. But the votes still need to be tallied, and every county needs to certify their own results before the state can do so. And the state has until January 22nd, 2 days after inauguration, to do that. Doesn't mean they can't do it sooner, but they can't take longer than January 22nd. So right now it's a little bit up in the air. Exactly when Warnock and Ossoff will be able to be sworn in. At the latest, it would be, let's say, January 23rd, and then, of course, Schumer would become the majority leader after that. Obviously, if the Senate doesn't come back until the 20th, then even if the state certifies the results before then, there's nobody here to do the swearing in. So it's a little up in the air. We know it'll probably happen within the next couple of weeks, but it's hard to put an exact day on it at this point.
God, it's so amazing. All this stuff is, once upon a time, I would consider it theoretical, an academic argument that would happen, back and forth. And now we're sort of talking about this as real options. It's mind-boggling to me. But Nancy, I'm glad that you are here to sort of find the pathway through and help us understand. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.